Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. As you saw in the video with the Buds on Budget 4-seater beater, it just wasn't fast enough, okay? It didn't have enough guts. Now, there's a couple of different things we can do here in this situation. I've heard turbo, I've heard supercharger, I've heard 391 diff, which I'm probably gonna end up doing specifically for Grange because that's where I wanna drive this car. Now, if I was gonna go to something like Horse Thief or a bigger track that had a little bit more area in it, I would definitely leave the 364 or 346 in it, that's in it. What I really wanna do is figure out how to get a little bit more power out of this car without having to do anything major. So I wanna just do simple bolt-on stuff that gives me a little bit more oomph. I feel like the car's just barely outside of the power in order to slide Grange with the gearing that it has. With that being said, we did raise the tire pressure, we stiffened up the suspension, we did a bunch of stuff that day that you didn't really get to see, that I didn't really film, and we just tried the best of our ability to get the car to work properly, but it's just not working with the power that it has and the gearing that it has. So a 391 would make the car drive phenomenally better. But one thing we did want to try was the infamous M50 manifold swap.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
We have the M50 manifold swap here. Our good buddy Nick Priono set us up with that. And then on top of that, because you really shouldn't just bolt things onto the car without having some type of tune, our boy from Seems Legit, Mike, got us hooked up with an ECU that's tuned from our other buddy Vlad. Thanks for the business, Micah. No problem, bro. So Mike hooked us up with our buddy Vlad, got us an ECU that's already tuned, that wakes up your throttle a little bit and supposedly adds a little bit more horsepower to the car. So we'll see just by changing like some timing and a couple of other things. When you put this in your car, you're supposed to be pairing it with an M50 manifold and headers, which, as you guys know, we already have headers on this car. So the only thing we're missing now is the M50 manifold and the ECU. Seems Legit solved the problem because the M50 manifold requires a bunch of different hoses and things like that. So Seems Legit made a hose kit. There's an intake hose, there's another hose, here is a adapter plate for the throttle body to the M50 manifold, and another hose, and some bolts, and some more hardware, I believe, which is for the fuel rail. And another hose thing, nope, that's not a hose, that's for, I think, the idle air control valve. And another adapter and some hose clamps. And then a bunch of super dope Seems Legit stickers, and then these are my spacers. They're just in the box from Motorsports Hardware. I just threw them in here. I just want to say real quick, from the bottom of my heart, Seems Legit and Mike over there have been a really good partner of ours with supplying parts for the race car, to the budget car, to anything that we need. We call Mike, we tell him, hey, this is what we're doing, what do you think? He says no problem, he wants to be a part of the project. So it's really cool to find two things: someone who is willing to work with us and support the channel so we can bring you guys this content, and two, someone who actually produces a good product. With all that being said, Mike is the guy who does both. He supports, and he is also someone who produces something amazing. So, and I'm not just talking about this kit, because I've never used this kit. I'm talking about all the handbrake stuff that you put in the cars. They have an aluminum dual caliper bracket that utilizes the factory brackets, or they utilize a Wilwood caliper. And then if you're like me and you're a special case, you're a little mama's special boy, then you request the bracket in steel, so that he makes you the dual caliper bracket in steel. You bolt it onto your control arm, then you weld it in also, because your tires are getting too much grip and it's breaking things off. The aluminum one wasn't bad, but the torture that I was putting it through with last year's tire and last year's horsepower really took a toll on it. So it's not to say that the product's bad, but we've never used an aluminum bracket setup on a crazy ass car. And also, with that being said, the Wilwood adapter calipers that go on, that are on my car right now, that make me run the Wilwoods all the way around on the Pro car, are aluminum. So something with the car just stopping and going and stopping and going, something with the handbrake just didn't work out really good with the aluminum. It might have been my error with the bolts, I don't know. Regardless, doesn't matter, because if you have a high horsepower, high traction car, he can make you the bracket in steel. If you have a normal car, you can get it made in aluminum. Doesn't matter. Point is, I have his aluminum ones on my car for my regular foot brake, and then I have a steel one on for the handbrake caliper. So Mike does amazing things. Huge shout out to Seems Legit. But I've never done this before, so I don't know that I should necessarily give you guys any tricks or tips on this install, but what I will do is at least show you guys me going through the process. So we're gonna install this today. We're gonna install the ECU and all these other goodies here to make this manifold work on the M54, whatever this motor is. I don't even know, doesn't matter, it's slow. We're gonna install all the parts and then we'll go out for a drive and see if it feels any different. So I'll tell you guys my honest opinion on if I think it's worth it or not. Regardless of if I'm a fan of the seems legit stuff or not, I'll let you know if it actually feels like it's doing anything different. I've heard really good things about it. A buddy of mine who I trust who runs this kit on his car says really good things about it. So naturally I was like, hey, Mike's got a kit, let's try his out and see what it does for the motor. So let's get to the install, boys. We'll start with, oh, Colt's here too. He's always here. Watch out, buddy. So we'll get this open, get it going. And I believe this is also the first thing that we're actually working on in the garage on the channel. Garage is still not done, wires are still hanging because I have not gotten Christmas light staples that I need to put those wires up. But anyways, here we have it. This is what she looks like before. We'll be setting you guys up on a time lapse. You can watch me tear all this apart and we'll see what it does. So I'll get this swapped over. If I run into any cool tips or tricks, I'll let you know, but start this time lapse, boys. Let's get it. All right, so that's kind of an idea of what it's gonna look like. I really wanna keep the fuel rail cover going because I think it just looks really nice when that's on there, and obviously it covers up a bunch of that exposed wire and adjusted fuel rail and all that stuff. So if we can get this to like lock in somewhere like this, maybe, I don't know, I'll figure out a way to fasten it to it. Maybe a small, very, very small zip tie here, something to the rail and then in the back as well, just so I can obviously remove it if I need to. But I didn't put in all the bolts in the manifold. I gotta extend some wires. I'm really just not prepared to dive into this far just yet. So I wanted to get to like a stopping point. I got my mass sensor I need to extend. I need to extend the throttle as well. And then there's an intake air temp sensor I need to extend. The vacuum system pretty much that comes from the dipstick tube. So I'll have to cap that as well. So I gotta get a couple more supplies and things like that, but that's pretty much where I'm gonna end right now. So far, so good. It looks good. I gotta figure out how to make this stock airbox work too. It doesn't look like it's gonna be rocket science or anything, but somehow getting a connection in there. But I really like the way that it looks all stock. I'm a big fan of the factory looking engine bay on the BMW. Obviously the engine bay in that car looks way better. But what I'm saying is, I like the OEM look, especially out here in California with all the rules and regulations and blah, blah, blah. Like, cop pops your hood out here and you got all these fancy things, even like the gold throttle body piece. Like that would be cool if that was black, but I know it seems legit does a bunch of gold stuff, so it is what it is. I might even take that off and paint it black just so it blends even more. This is all still a mess. There's still a lot to do, but for now we'll stop there.
1 week later.
So in between filming this, I ended up getting a vid. I didn't really care to come out in the garage, but tonight I'm feeling a lot better. Which the only thing I got was like a kind of big headache, but then I went and tested because everybody in the house tested and everybody was sick. So I was like, I should go test this. So if I'm going out, I know if I'm giving anybody anything. Well, it turns out test positive. But back in December of 2019, I got hit hard. I think it was with bid first time, because this time I didn't really feel so bad. First time though was a rough ride. Anyways, feeling better, came back out in the garage and boom, I got this whole thing in here and done. I didn't really film the process. It's gonna end up being a time lapse anyways, but I do wanna run you down on a couple of things. So one, the throttle body, you definitely have to like flip it around a couple times to figure it out. You can put the actual seems legit bracket onto the motor the right way up. So it says SLG on the bottom side. And then you're gonna take it off and flip it 180 degrees and put it back on. Then that'll make the throttle body bolt on with the black cover up and the plug on the bottom side so that you're not stretching out the harness too much. Another thing was the intake manifold air temp sensor. If you take off the cover for the injector rails, there's 2 zip ties. You can cut those and I think that it'll reach, but I had already extended them prior to figuring that out. But you might be able to cut the 2 zip ties that hold the injector harness and the intake temperature sensor together and run that over to straight to the plug on the bottom side. I also was able to put the crankcase ventilation system back on. So it's on the dipstick, comes up, and then I took the little swirl pot thing off the manifold and I put it back on here. So there's a vent, there's a vent going to atmosphere, probably like 2 inches high. And then there's the plug that this valve cover goes into, and then there's the bottom drain plug that goes back to the dipstick hole. So it's just venting to atmosphere, there's no vacuum. But that's done, and then I cut the boot, moved it over, stretched it a little bit, got it to hook up to the factory air box. It's not bolted in, but she's in there pretty damn snug. It's not going anywhere. And then I was able to kind of stretch this a little and get the factory stuff to kind of fit in there. Oh, I was really wanting to make it look stock again, like I said, for California stuff. And then I just popped this bolt cover off, and I ran a zip tie around the fuel rail and through this cover, so the cover is just kind of hanging on in there. But at least from the visual appearance, looks very, very factory. One thing I didn't like is I lost that cover that goes here. Is what it is. Also, I put in the new ECU as well. So there's some paperwork that comes with this particular computer, which is a MS43. And it says, I don't know where it's at, but I remember what it says. It says, make sure that your car's been off for at least 3 minutes. Then turn on the key to the on position for 10 seconds. This is to recalibrate because it's got a new throttle position calibration or something like that. 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then off. Well, 10 seconds. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we should be able to fire it up. It's gotta like relearn everything. So I got an engine light on. I gotta figure out why. So I'll plug in with the OBD2 and figure out what that is exactly. All right, let's see if we can figure out what this comes up with. I'm just gonna try to erase it and hopefully it doesn't come back. P whatever 0600. Now let's see. It says it erased it. It said it was done. Let's turn this off. There she goes. Now it's idling way better. I'm still all congested. Manifolds in, ECU's in. Okay, let's go for a drive. See what this thing does. That feels weird. Like now the throttle tipping, like the car's actually moving. It's not like this weird sluggish feel. It actually wants to go. Yeah, that's new. I gotta bend that dust shield out. She's got a new red line at about 7,000. That was sick. feels a little faster, but I can't tell if it's because of the throttle input that's changed or if it's because of the manifold. But like I say, you should do one thing to your car at a time in order to figure out what's making a difference. The problem is that the ECU is tuned for this intake setup with all of our wires connected. So you can't really put it on a stock car. I know they make a tune for a stock car, but this isn't it. This is for the M50. Feels good though. Feels like it actually wants to pull. But the response to the throttle, I think, is the biggest thing. If you're not boosting it or doing anything crazy with the car, you're gonna need all the help you can get. So I would do this. I think it's worth it. Because I'm leaving my car naturally aspirated, and I think I just need to throw a diff at it and she'll be back. Maybe there's some other things going on, which we'll address. We'll try to figure it out, but that feels good. So again, big shout out to Mike from Seems Legit. Solid kit, bro, solid. As always, thank you guys for watching. Stay safe.